again here to my short video series, more about the how and not so much about the why. Creating a chatbot using the tutorial create a crisis communication chatbot and connect it to news and COVID-19 data sources. We already did some tasks inside this tutorial. We got an overview of the entire project. We created the Watson Assistant service as our chatbot, and we created the Watson Discovery service as our search and analytics engine to inspect unstructured data. We use the predefined collection of data with news article. So, and now it's time to use functions on IBM Cloud, the serverless functionality. Functions will be our single point of entry to these different data sources. So from here we will organize the access to the APIs and the service. For that we will upload code. Let us take a short look. We will use the functions which are available on IBM Cloud that contains the ability to create actions. These actions do contain source code, and with these actions we can provide a REST endpoint, and this REST endpoint can be used by a webhook inside Watson Assistant. And now move on where we are in the tutorial. So here's Cloud Functions. So we will use the Cloud Functions serverless functionality inside IBM Cloud. So therefore we just press here, and then we can directly create that action which will contain the source code to organize all these stuff. So we will take also a little bit into this source code. So then when we're going to create, our runtime will be Node.js. We will have JavaScript as our sample we will use from the GitHub project, and we can directly access the code here. So I can copy the link and I will open up this link with the source code here, and here you can see that's the source code we are going to reuse. It's inside the GitHub project, which contains the entire sample information. So, and the action is called COVID webhook. To reflect, it will be reused as a webhook inside our Watson Assistant service. So we will create this name. So, and now we have an action. This is an action. We will have parameter and we will have endpoints, and that's what we will reuse inside the Watson Assistant. So now let us get a short overview of the source code. So I will copy the source code and put it into the action. So copy and paste. Save. So you can see here is a map which is related to states information. What is important to understand, very important, is this function we will use, the main. We will have parameters as an entry point for this action, and we will check the parameter for type, and if the type is API, we go to collect data from the COVID-19 API and from a weather API. You can see if the parameter type is not API, we will go per default, where is it else, you can see here, to get information from the discovery service. Here we use the API for the discovery service. To use these configurations, we must define parameters, and therefore we will go to define the parameters. This is a little bit new. New, I mean there were some changes which are not directly reflected right now inside the documentation here, and that's the reason why I go directly to the GitHub project, which also contains the documentation how to set up. In the future, we will also have the ability to get information from the weather company, and therefore we have to register at the weather company to get access to the API. And I am already registered. I got an API key, so I will use later. And we have to define following parameters. That's the API key from Watson Discovery. So we, as a parameter, okay, save it. The next is, this is from the Weber company, our API key. You can add the URL of the Watson Discovery service. Okay. Collection ID. And what is the environment ID. So now let us get the information from the Watson Discovery service. Therefore, we open up the resource list and we open the Discovery service. When we open the Discovery service, here we have the API key. Just paste the API key. So, and here is the URL you can use. Okay, just save it. Launch the Watson Discovery service. And then we can access the predefined collection and get the, and we were going to get the API information, the collection ID. Just change it, copy it. Collection ID. And where is it? Yeah, here is it, copy, and here the environment ID. Okay, now I have to insert my weather company ID, and this ID I cannot share, and that's the reason why I stop the video and move on later. So now I'm back. I inserted all needed parameters here, and now I want to test the action inside functions. Therefore, we can use the JSON as an import, and we know we have type. The type will be API when we want to get the API part, so that means if we want to get some location information, yeah. And therefore we will also insert location, for example here US, so that reflects what we want to know. So and then I say apply, and now when I invoke this action, it uses these input parameters, and that is when it is called from external. Okay, so when I invoke it, let us double check. So here are the numbers we got when we invoke it like this, and when we change the parameter to like others, you know, everything which is not API, there will be informations from the Watson Discovery service we expect. So then we invoke it. Yeah, right, so here we see. The last task to do, we have to enable the endpoint. So these. Now we have an HTTP endpoint we can use. That's the endpoint we can access, the public endpoint, and with these we will get the information from our action. So everyone can call now these action and getting the information. We do use the parameter. Yeah, and I would say that's all. Just going back, yeah, this is what we did. We did configure the functions to access the different kinds of data sources. The remaining step is now to integrate these to Watson Assistant, and that will be a part of the next video. Don't forget, all related information is below in the description. Check it out by yourself, play around, get your hands dirty, and hopefully we see us again, and I would say bye.